States is the global leader in biotechnology innovation and research. At the same time, however, it's no secret that this industry relies heavily on international supply chains, especially from China. And I'm concerned, and it was highlighted by our visit there, on the dependence and how this could be exploited by an adversary, obviously like the CCP, causing damaging bottlenecks within U.S. biotech supply chains. Obviously, we saw that, and it was highlighted during COVID in a number of different fields. And so it's paramount, given U.S.'s national security interest, that we diversify our supply chains through international cooperation with our trading partners and by investing in domestic production. And during the visit to Boston, I had the opportunity to visit with Jake Beecraft. He's the CEO and co-founder of Strand Therapeutics, a biotech company that researches and develops state-of-the-art new therapies with mRNA technology. Jake actually grew up in my district in Illinois, and his family still resides near Peoria. But Jake and his team have really have this wonderful company, but they recently launched a new initiative called Peoria BioMade, which partners with local community school and healthcare workers to create a hub for manufacturing biologics, viral vectors, and nucleic acids and other input products required to manufacture treatments. The vision of this initiative is to develop production capacity, attract biomedical companies to Central Illinois, and create a viable alternative to our reliance on international supply chains in the biopharmaceutical industry. My district, like many others across the Midwest, has a storied history of manufacturing and innovation and presents a great opportunity for reskilling and training workers for these and new emerging industries. Dr. Kelly, I'm going to start with you. In terms of the strategic vulnerability of our reliance on China, I'm wondering if you could comment on that. And then secondarily, as we look at closing the skills gap here, we could see over 2 million unfilled manufacturing jobs by 2030 in the U.S., particularly in new and emerging sectors like biotechnology. So how can the U.S. better address the skills gap in biomanufacturing and also talk about the strategic vulnerability and our reliance on China?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that % of biologics moving into China. I think one answer here also is no problem if a Chinese manufacturer built a site in the U.S., right? So we're happy, you know, like I think it's a little bit different than like a communication technology where there might be some chance to spy or something. That we'd love to have it, you know. So I think you know that's an answer to some of this is have them built here. I think community colleges. I'm seeing increasing numbers of programs like affiliated next to a biomanufacturing plant. I think that can work extremely well. That's the level of training you need for these things. And the last point I'll make, I was down in Indiana, touring a Lilly plant, and these new drugs, these obesity drugs that are going to have hundreds of millions of customers for them, are changing the story around manufacturing of these biologics and proving how valuable it can be if you have these things that affect everybody. You know, make muscle tone last longer, longevity, all these. If we want to access those truly like major health changes in wellness, we will need manufacturing at 100 or 1,000 times our current scale. So it's an enormous opportunity for all of these areas in terms of build out. If these types of drugs end up being successful and are the direction the pharma industry moves in the future, you might see 100 or 1,000 times more manufacturing.
Excellent. I may just ask the other two to comment on how do we diversify away from China in this field, particularly on manufacturing, if you want to comment.
I'll just note the tech hub you mentioned is a great example of what we're trying to do as a nation with this. The Chips and Science has put into motion this notion of place-based innovation. We have the EDA tech hubs, we have NSF engines, and I would just say that continued support for the Chips and Science from an appropriations perspective would be very helpful in making sure that we're creating these regional centers of excellence to include in biology.
Dr. O'Toole, anything to add?
I would only add that we have to pay attention to getting young people excited about these opportunities. In my experience, they don't know about them. They don't see science as a route forward for them because they're not going to go get a PhD. And we need to think seriously about how we recruit and then train young people for this new dawn that is happening.
Thank you. I yield back.
Ms. Sherrill. Thank you. I'd like to point out how incredibly important this is to me because I am a member of Congress from New Jersey, and as we speak, Bruce Springsteen tickets are on sale. But I am